Welcome to part 2 in the dopamine series. In this part we are going to look at some clever ways how to increase dopamine naturally. And you might want to stay to the end because we will cover a lot here.
Disclaimer. This video is information only and it's not medical advice. If you need medical advice, please see your doctor. I am not a doctor. I'm just a guy who likes to read and learn a lot. And in my videos I simply share what I have learned with the viewers of my videos.
Scandinavian Bob here, hi. This channel is all about reducing anxiety, discovering interesting biohacks and self-improvement tricks in order to build a stronger self. So consider subscribing, click on the little bell icon and let's get going. Okay, so there are literally hundreds of things we can do to fix low dopamine levels. So we will of course focus on the things that give the biggest bang for the buck. In part 1 I mentioned the following causes of low dopamine. Yeah, so there you have them on the screen right there. So let's talk about some clever ways to fix those and also things that raise dopamine in and of themselves. Take a look at the first 5 causes here. Stress, lack of sleep, adrenal fatigue, blood sugar spikes and crashes, and a leaky gut. Now, of course, there are hundreds of things to do about those, but as I said, we will look at the biggest bang for the buck here. And I personally attack all those 5 things by starting my day by putting a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in a glass of water, and then I drink it before breakfast. I also do it once more during the day, prior to one of my later meals. This is phenomenal for your gut, and it also helps with stress, and it also helps combat sharp fluctuations in your blood sugar. It basically kills 5 birds with one stone here. And you can find apple cider vinegar in almost every grocery store for just a couple of bucks. Then I also take an adaptogenic herb called ashwagandha, and I do this on a daily basis. This is one of my favorite herbs as it significantly lowers stress and anxiety. It helps with sleep, and believe it or not, it is one of the best herbs for adrenal fatigue if you happen to have that. And several studies have also shown ashwagandha to lower blood sugar levels. So again, we are attacking the first few causes on that list here. However, do not just buy the root powder. Make sure it's either ashwagandha KSM66 or sensoril that you are buying. I can leave a link to a good brand under this video for you. Okay, so the next tool for increasing dopamine levels is meditation. Several studies show meditation to significantly increase dopamine levels, and it may perhaps also increase dopamine receptors. Now, as a bonus, it also helps with stress, anxiety, and sleep. So again, this is one of the most effective tools you can use. Another effective tool to naturally increase dopamine is sunshine. Yes, being out in the sun can do wonders for your dopamine, and again, it also lowers stress and anxiety. Studies also show how sunlight helps with depression, so of course this is a tool that we just have to have in our dopamine toolbox, right? Okay, moving on. Cold showers have shown to both increase dopamine levels and dopamine receptors, so that right there makes it a very good long-term tool. But here too, it does more than this. You see, cold showers have shown to be really effective for helping with depression, stress, anxiety, and insomnia, and adrenal fatigue. Now I admit it takes some willpower to do them, but if you are serious about fixing your dopamine levels, then they are an amazing tool that you really should consider. Then, of course, we just have to talk about exercise, as this too is a tool that both increase dopamine and dopamine receptors, and it also helps to reduce anxiety, stress, and depression. Just make sure to not overdo it, because if you do, it will backfire and the net result will be actually more stress for your nervous system. Just doing some mild exercise like cardio will increase your dopamine, but if you want to increase the receptors as well, which is a very good thing to do, then high intensity interval training or heavy strength training is better, as it does both. But again, do not overdo it. Make sure to take a few rest days as well and let your body recover during those days. This is because too much training will lead to even more stress, so keep that in mind and try to find your right balance. Then what you want to do is to eat foods that are rich in the amino acid tyrosine. This is because dopamine is made from this amino acid, and of course we want to give the body the right material. Otherwise, doing all of these other things may not help you. Some foods high in tyrosine are chicken, turkey, spinach, fish, particularly salmon and tuna fish, yogurt, wild rice, cheese, peanuts, almonds, pumpkin seeds, beans, avocados, bananas, beef, pork. Now there are also tyrosine supplements that you can take, and here too I can provide a link to a good brand. Just check under the video where it says links. Then I also recommend that you have a to-do list. You see, when you write down your tasks and get to tick them off one by one, it will help you with motivation. And as you remember from part 1, dopamine and motivation really go hand in hand. Now it may sound trivial, but it's actually a really effective tool. Make a habit out of always writing down your goals, and then make a to-do list that consists of steps on how to achieve those goals. Okay, so how about the type 2 diabetes then? Well, this is not medical advice, but if I were to suffer from type 2 diabetes, I would definitely eat a very low-carb diet. By the way, did you know that some experts believe that the keto diet increased dopamine sensitivity? And one interesting study in children with medication-resistant epilepsy showed how following the diet had significant impact on the neurotransmitters dopamine and serotonin. So again, this is a tool that gives multiple benefits when it comes to dopamine. Personally, I cycle on and off the diet with periods that I eat almost zero carbs, and then I jump back to a normal diet for a few days before jumping back on. I have had great success with reducing anxiety and stress like this, and yes, I do feel much more mentally stable when skipping the carbs. I highly recommend it. Just do a little search here on YouTube and you'll find great channels talking about that diet. And so the next tool is a double-edged sword. And in part 1 I promised to talk more about this here, and it's coffee. Yes, coffee does increase dopamine levels, but it can also cause your levels to drop. So how is this then? Well, you see, coffee increases cortisol and adrenaline at rest, and the levels of cortisol after caffeine consumption can even be similar to those experienced during an acute stress. Now, cortisol and adrenaline are both really powerful stress hormones, and as you know by now, stress can tank your dopamine. So if you are highly sensitive to caffeine, then using it to elevate your dopamine levels will not work for you. Personally, I am a bit sensitive to caffeine, and I try to get around this by just drinking a very small amount every coffee break. And I do mean small. I drink about 1/4 or 25% of a cup. Believe it or not, this is enough to elevate my dopamine a bit without raising my cortisol levels. Now, if you are not that sensitive to caffeine, just drink your coffee like normal and don't worry about anything. Okay, and then when we zoom back to the causes and look at the word addiction there, you have to be honest with yourself. Are you heavily addicted to something? If the answer is yes, then you should really consider getting a grip on it, as it's impossible to have a dopamine system that functions optimally if we have a heavy addiction of some sort. So, for example, I know many of my viewers will have to tear themselves away from the online adult entertainment. Now, as I said before, I am not religious and I have no moral problems with it, but the truth is that it can become a real addiction with addiction-related brain changes, and man oh man, your dopamine system will suffer so much. Okay, moving on. Then another interesting tool is something called velvet beans, also known as mucuna pruriens. This is something that naturally contains a precursor to dopamine called L-dopa, and these can actually be very effective, and there are some interesting studies showing how long-term use really makes a big difference in people with low levels. The beans are available as supplements, and again you can check the links under this video for a good brand. And so the next tool is so easy to use, but also backed up by science. And it is listening to music. Yes, listen to songs that gives you chills, and do it often. By doing this, you will elevate your dopamine levels, and you can hardly find a more pleasant way than this. Alright, that's it for today. I really hope you found this video informative. This is Scandinavian Bob signing out for today, and as always, I wish you all the best in your journey to become the strongest version of yourself. And remember, as Winston Churchill used to say, if you're going through hell, keep going. Oh, and Happy New Year to every one of you, and thank you for watching my videos. I really appreciate it.